Okay, so welcome to day 3 of our R&D Tax Summit, the final day and the final session of this digital event. We designed this event for accountants and advisors navigating the changing R&D tax landscape that we're all in just now. For this final session of the week, we have a webinar called Adapting and Thriving in the R&D Tax Sector, which is essentially an introduction into us, a bit of a background into WhisperClaims, and a look at our software and advice offering. Mike's going to be driving the first part of the session. Mike is our co-founder and managing director here at WhisperClaims, and I'm Sue's commercial manager here at WhisperClaims too. Before we get going, just a tiny bit of housekeeping. For anyone who's been on the sessions already this week, you'll have heard me say this several times already, but if you would like to chat to us, please have your chat box open and your settings toggled to panelists. If you'd like to chat to us and the attendees, you can toggle to speak to everybody at the same time. And we love questions, so if you do have any questions for us, we do have a dedicated Q&A at the end of the session, and please can we urge you to pop those questions in the Q&A box, because we are going to be sharing some resources as we go through the session today, and it just means that any questions that you have don't get lost. That's it from me until the demo, so over to you, Mike.
Brilliant, thanks, Suze. So those of you who've been on the earlier sessions will have heard me say this before, but just to sort of quickly wrap up why we've done the R&D Tax Summit. As Suze has said, this is the last session out of 6 over the last 3 days. And I guess, you know, we're all well aware of the extent of changes to the legislation, changes to HMRC's behaviour over the last 18 months or so, and some of the impacts that that's been having on the market. And not least amongst that has been this kind of creation of somewhat of a negative bubble on social media, largely driven by service providers bemoaning HMRC and bemoaning the state of the market. One of the things we wanted to do with these sessions is to take us away from that and to think about the facts around those structural changes. So we ran a session 2 days ago now with Jen, walking us through all of the aspects of those changes and how they're impacting us. We've had a couple of sessions where we're talking to practitioners about the strategies that they've been using to mitigate for those changes and how they're working through them and working positively with their clients. We had a session with Richard Edwards from the R&D community talking about training and how to make sure that your firm is properly skilled and ready for these market challenges. And then this morning we had Joe Edwards from JE Consulting talking to us about marketing, so how to promote these services, particularly in the light of the change in shape of the market. So for those of you who've been on more than today's session and have been working through all of that, I hope that's all been really useful for you. And as Sue says, this last session is really focusing on us as WhisperClaims. Who are we? What do we do? And to give you a look at our app. So Suze will work through a demo in a few minutes' time. But before we get there, I just wanted to say a little bit about us as a business. So I always start this slide by talking about what we're not. So we're not consultants. We don't do claims for anybody. We are empowering you as a service provider to deliver R&D tax services under your own brand. And we do that through a combination of 3 things. The sort of principal building block is our technology, our award-winning software. I'll tell you a little bit about our awards in a second. Backed by our learning tools, which is a range of ebooks. I'm going to share some of those with you today. Training courses, webinars, everything we've done this week, in fact, is part of that suite of learning tools. And then all of that is underpinned by our advice line support. So we have, through the app, access through live chat, telephone, email, our advice line, which is essentially a resource you can turn to at any stage for information about the scheme, information about eligibility, understanding whether a client or their projects are eligible. We're always there as that additional shoulder to lean on to give you that advice. So even if you sat with a client in a meeting and you've got a query, is this eligible? Does this fit? I've got a particular challenge in describing a technical development with the client. You can get hold of us and we'll support you through that journey. So that's who we are. So where have we got to today? So we launched the business in late 2018. No customers, no revenue, just essentially a prototype app at that stage. Where are we now? 6 years later, working with about 150 firms nationally, a real mix of sizes from literally one-man bands at the very small end right through to top 100 firms at the other. I'll talk a little bit in a few minutes about the motivations for those firms to come and speak to us in the first place. In that time, we've got through now 3,665 claims, at least it was on Tuesday, the last time I looked, maybe a little bit higher now. And that represents around 650 million of eligible spend, which translates roughly into 160 million or so of tax benefits for the clients of our customers. And notice how I've emphasised that this is a team effort. We're providing you with the tools, but you're the ones who are out there working with your clients to generate the data that results in those benefits. Now, I mentioned our awards, and noticed in the press recently that awards, particularly in the accounting sector, seem to have been getting a little bit of a pasting, and people talking about their credibility and so on. What I would say about our awards is the thing we're most proud of is the fact that we've got a combination of recognition from the technology sector. That's through the Business Tech Awards, FinTech Technician program as well, that has recognised that what we've done technically, taking a people-heavy consultative process and turning that into a software-driven, highly structured process, is actually a very difficult thing to do, no matter what sector you're in. So we've had recognition for that, and then at the same time, we've had recognition from the accounting sector, really around recognising us for essentially democratising this part of the market, allowing more accountants to get involved in delivering an effective R&D tax service. So it's that combination of those two things that I just wanted to emphasise. Now, I promised to mention what the drivers are for new customers approaching us in the first place. And we broadly have two groups of people that talk to us. It's either people who are preparing claims in-house already, who traditionally are coming to us because they're looking for efficiencies in the process. They might also be looking for consistency in the process. So that could be across multiple sites. It could just be across multiple team members working in the same office, but making sure that everybody's working to the same standard and working to the same quality, and being able to do that in a scalable fashion without having to go out and recruit further team members. But I think that's changed a little bit more recently in that people are now also coming to us for our support. So I mentioned earlier this extra shoulder to lean on. So making sure that they're on the right side of the legislation, making sure that they're gathering the right data from the client and presenting that in the right way to clients. So even people who've been doing this for years are looking for that reassurance. The other group of people are people who are looking to launch an R&D service as a brand new service for the first time. And again, we've seen a shift in that. So probably 2 years plus ago, people were coming to us looking to do that purely because they wanted to generate more revenues, both top and bottom line performance. And there's a real sort of clamour for doing that. Actually, in the last 9 months or so, particularly since the AIF was implemented, that's really changed. So people now are coming to us saying, do you know what, my clients are asking me to help them with this. They've been let down by a third-party service provider, or they're just looking for my help as a respected advisor. So again, looking for a way to deliver the service without having to recruit a team, and without necessarily having to go right back to square one, and go through a training course and figure out how they're going to do it for themselves, assemble spreadsheets, etc. All the while with that need to have that additional shoulder to lean on to keep on the right side of the legislation. So those two broad customer groups are the people we're dealing with, as I say, all sorts of sizes, one-man bands, right through to top 100 firms. So that's all I wanted to say about us. I'm going to hand straight over to Suze to get into the demo, and then it'll come back to me and I'll talk about some of the resources we want you to go away from these sessions with later on. So over to you, Suze.
Thanks, Mike. Let's do a little switcher of the screens there so I can get the app up. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. Is that all right, Mike, from your side? Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So a demonstration of WhisperClaims. So this is what the app looks like when you enter it from the button toggle on the homepage, the homepage of our website. You come into the homepage dashboard, which is essentially your gateway into the rest of the system. So what I'm going to do today is give you a brief intro into the dashboards, the question set, how you access support, and really importantly, the generation of your finalized report and the additional information form output that you'll use to complete your AIF portal at the end of the process. So as you can see from the homepage dash here, you can access recent clients and recent claims very quickly and easily. Running along the bottom of the screen, you've got a series of posts that are just feeding through from our website. We do our best to push out regular pieces of content, thought leadership, changes within the scheme, product updates to keep our customers and anyone who's interested up to date in what's going on. Also, we've got some case study material there as well. Mike's already mentioned the support side of our offering, which is really fundamental to our customers, and you can access that from anywhere you are within the app. So this question mark icon that you can see at the top of the screen here, you can see everywhere you are within the app. If you click on contact us, you can see our phone number, and you can email us. And down here at the bottom of the screen, my Zoom window's in the way though, so let me just move that out of the way. You have our live chat bubble, so you can quickly and easily access help via our live chats anytime you need to. Those three channels will go through to the same place, which is us here in the background, ready to help for any scheme or eligibility related queries that you have. I would quickly like to just show you the admin as well, because there's some interesting features that are worthwhile just pointing out. So from the admin, can manage your profile. You can see we've got our 2FA feature here for you to manage as well, as depending on how you want to receive your 2FA codes. You can view your subscription details, which includes your T's and C's. You can add and remove users, and importantly, you can assign permissions to users as well, depending on what you want them to be able to do or not to do within the app. You can, of course, view invoices, and we also have a nice optional extra if you want to engage with this. We have a report styling wizard that just enables you to customize the look and feel of the reports that you produce through the app. So, for example, you can pull in your logo, you can change the color flex within the report to reflect brand guidelines. You can also do things like add footers to your reports, adding in the content here, and you can also change the order of the reports as well if you want to. Any changes you make within this part of the app are global changes, so they'll affect anyone who's using the app at your end. When it comes to working with a customer for the first time, if I just quickly take you into the clients tab, this is where you will create those customers. Creating a company is really straightforward. You just click on the big green button here. You'll see a form pops up. We've got a handy widget here in the background that links to Companies House. So you can see I've got data being pulled through. This is just going to make setting up new companies really quickly and easily, because the system's going to pre-populate that data and information for you. There's also some mandatory information that you can see on this form that we do need for you to add in before you can move forward. That's because we need that information critically for the additional information form output that I'll show you at the end of the process. Once you've created a company, you can then start to create claims off the back of that company. So if I just take you into the workflow dashboard here, this is where you can create new claims. You can access in progress and completed claims. It's also where all your downloadable reports and your additional information form outputs are stored for easy access. Creating a new claim is really straightforward. Again, you've got a big green button here on the right-hand side, a drop down with all of the companies that you've already created in the previous dashboard. So it's just a case of picking which company you want to add the claim to, clicking on add claim, and that is going to launch you into a fresh question set. The display that you have in front of you in this dashboard is sortable as well. So if, for example, you're looking to prioritize hard deadlines, or you need to pick up work for a team member, you can easily sort using the sort functions in the dash here. You can see we've got color-coded progress bars running down the center of the screen. These are indicating how far along we are within a claim, and also whether a claim has been complete or whether it's still ongoing. Any claim that has been completed is green, and you've got some additional functionality within this dashboard once you've completed a claim that I'll quickly show you as well just now. But here, just to show you, is your PDF report that you will attach to the CT600, and this is your additional information form output. Both of these you'll be downloading at the end of the process to do the next part of your journey when it comes to submitting your client's claim. If you have created and finalised and downloaded your report, and you're maybe having a review with your client and you need to go make some edits or amendments to that report, all you need to do is come into the dashboard, click on Request Unlock. That will then send a message through to us here in the background. We'll unlock the claim for you. You can go back in, make any edits or amendments that you need to, and then refinalise and re-download your reports files. What this means is that you've always got the most up-to-date version of your output sitting here in the dashboard available for download, and you're not needing to worry about lots of different versions of Word files and PDFs and that sort of thing on your desktop. So the system will generate the most up-to-date version of your PDF and your additional information form output, which will reflect any changes that you've made when you've been in. And you can go through that loop of unlocking and editing and refinalising and re-downloading your reports as many times as you need to until you're happy with the output. That's probably enough for the dashboard. So let's dive into a claim. So this is the training claim. If any of you are on the call today have seen a demo before, this might be familiar to you. This claim is purposely been set for a financial period that starts 1st of April 2023, and I'll explain why that is as we go through the process. So I'll give you just a quick outline of the structure of the page, of the first page that we're on just now. So over on your left-hand side, you've got your progress/navigation bar. So these are all of the sections that you're going to go through as you work through the claim. You do have to answer the questions in the first instance in a linear sequence, and there's two key reasons for that. First of all, in the background, the decision engine is working out how best to route spend based on the data and information that you're giving the app. And the other key reason is that we have several eligibility checkers built into the app, and those are front-loaded. The idea being that we don't want you to go all the way through the process, get to the end, and the computer says no. We want to help you screen out ineligible clients as quickly as possible to make sure that you're keeping your time and your client's time as efficient as possible. So every page starts with a question or a statement, which you can see at the top of the screen here. Every single question has its own in-app help and support. So as well as being able to access support here and through live chat, if I just hover over this link, you're going to see we've got some notes. There's a short video and links that take you directly to the relevant guidance on HMRC's website from within the app. That's bespoke to every single question. Every single question also has a flagging system. So if you're maybe wanting to remind yourself that you need to go back to something, or indeed you're collaborating with your clients, we'll come to that in just a moment, or indeed with team members and you want to point somebody very quickly and easily to a part of the app that they need to review, you can flag questions. We also have a notes section, which is really handy as well, which is time and date stamped acts like a Google Doc. So you can leave notes, comments in the sidebar here, which can be useful for leaving justification to why you've answered a question in a certain way, or maybe pointing to evidence that relates to the question that you're on. Just a note to say that this section is for internal use only. Anything that goes in this section does not pull through to the report. It's just for your internal guidance and notes. Finally, on every question, you have dynamic feedback, which you see at the bottom of the screen. This is just based on a red, amber, green review. So green is everything's good. We can move on to the next question. Amber serves a couple of different purposes. It might be that it's the app is going to ask you to answer some additional questions based on the way that you've answered the question that you're on. It might be that it's going to highlight that there's a slight weakness in the claim, or it could be there just to give you instructions and information. And finally, we have red feedback. So this is an endpoint. This is where we will be screening this client's claim out of the process because they don't meet HMRC's guidelines. If maybe the way that the question's been answered has been done by mistake, or more information has come to light, you can reverse out of the way that you've answered the question to move forward. But as you can imagine, if you ever see that red endpoint, our advice would always be abandon, abandon. Okay, so the first part of the process that we go through is the basic qualification check. So I'll just gently start scrolling through the questions just to give you a feel for the types of things that we're asking here. We are asking you to answer these questions to ensure that the client meets the very minimum criteria to move forward. So it's always your responsibility as a user to answer these questions. Because this claim is post-April 2023, we of course do need to ask the question about whether this claim needed to be pre-notified. And of course, as you can imagine, if the claim doesn't meet pre-notification criteria, we don't want our customers to move on to then pay for and download a report to then find out that they haven't met that criteria. So we're going to screen those claims out of the process at this point very early on. We also have actually some new questions that if you hadn't seen the system before, you wouldn't really know, but some new questions that relate to the SME intensive scheme. We've got some additional fields within particular sections of the question sets that are going to help you to identify and establish whether or not your client's claim meets the SME intensive scheme or post-April 2024, the IRIS criteria. Additional questions are only going to be displayed for claims that have been affected. And I suppose the key thing to note is that the way the app has been designed is to help you establish eligibility as quickly as possible to minimize the amount of work that you need to do to work out whether or not your client meets the criteria for the intensive scheme. We were also going to ask about group structures and shareholdings a bit later on in the qualification section, and those companies that have connected companies, there are going to be questions asked about that. In this example, there are no implications for R&D intensive scheme, but if you click on various questions and you have a play about, you'll see those questions expand out and displayed for you to fill in. Once you've gone through the qualifications section, you're then going to come into the company section, which is where we are just now. And this is a slightly pivotal point in your journey, because this is the first time within the app where, if you want to, you can choose to invite collaborators onto the app. So collaborators are anyone within the claiming company who has critical information that is relevant to the claim. So your MDs, your FDs, your CTOs, your project managers, your project leads. It's really simple to add collaborators onto the app. You just simply click on the tab in the progress bar here. You'll see the sidebar pop up with anybody who's already been invited to the claim. To invite anybody else, it's very straightforward. You click on the blue link, a form pops up, fill out the form. That will send an email to the person that you want to invite to collaborate with you. They will then create credentials to get access to the software. You can have an unlimited number of collaborators per claim, and you can also manage your collaborators' visibility as well, in the sense that if you have some maybe less senior members of the team who shouldn't have access to sensitive information like salaries, you can actually switch off access to the cost question for those individuals. So that's just something that you will manage internally between you and your clients. I know Mike sometimes pops up here at this point to give some just anecdotal kind of sound bites. So Mike, do you want to just come in?
Yeah, well, actually, there's a bit of a twist here. So based on what we've done just this week with the sessions we've done this week, in the one we did with Jen on the first day, which was talking about the structural changes to the legislation and so on. Jen mentioned a thing called GFC3, which is Guidance for Compliance 3. So that's HMRC's new stance on advice for advisors operating in this space. And one of the key components in there is talking about the importance of the competent professional within the claimant company. So the person there is the technical expert, and recognizing their role in developing the claim. What we've seen since the implementation of the AIF back in August is a massive step up in the use of this collaborator function within the app. And I think that's reflecting the changes that HMRC have made, and particularly the GFC3 changes, where our users are realizing that they need to get the client and the competent professional in their client directly involved in writing the narrative. And in fact, the session, I think it was the second session that we did on day one, it might have even been the first one on day three, where we were talking to advisors who are using our software, that a couple of them mentioned the same thing, that actually, they're now making sure that the client understands this is their claim, and having them involved in the process of writing the claim, it assigns that ownership to them, which is perhaps very different to the way claims were being done a couple of years or more ago, where an advisor might go in, gather data, come away and write the report. Now you're seeing almost the opposite happen. Make sure that ownership sits with the client and the client is contributing directly to the report. And that's exactly what this collaboration feature is there to facilitate.
Absolutely, 100%. Just shared the link to GFC3 if anybody's interested in reading up a bit more. It's really important to kind of get your head around that, isn't it, Mike? And just sort of be aware of what HMRC's expectations are around that and around the competent professionals.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so company section, as you can imagine, we're just starting to build a picture about the firm, asking questions about number of directors, number of staff. If I inflate the number of staff in this financial period over the threshold of an SME claim, you can see that the app's just going to flag that to me. That's an example of the AMBER feedback that you might see within the app. As I mentioned already, you're also asked about group structures and shareholdings, and depending on how you answer these questions will determine if the app is going to expand out and ask you some additional questions about those parts of your client's states. Further on, we're going to come to the project section, which is this big portion of the question set here. The project section focuses on getting underneath the generic challenges and work that your client's undertaking over the financial period and helping you and them to understand where eligibility lies, prompting conversations and doing a lot of the legwork to gather the data for the report. A lot of that is going to be the software generated narrative that you're going to see in the report a bit later on when we do the downloads. This is definitely a part of the app where in sectors that don't meet HMRC's criteria, we're going to see them being filtered out, and I'll try and give you some examples of that as we go through it too. So just to pick on a couple of the questions, just to give you a flavour for what you're looking at. One of the first questions that you get asked in this section is what type of R&D is your client active in? So this is all around this part of the legislation here. And as anybody who's already active in the sector will know, that there are 4 groups of work that HMRC identify, and we've got them laid out in individual questions here. Whether a company is or isn't active in a certain area of R&D is quite a binary question. Yes, they're active in this one, no, they're not active in another. And you'll see that we've got a slider for each of these questions. The idea of the slider is, as well as identifying what type of R&D the company is doing, we're trying to get a feel and a flavour for how intensively they're working in that area of R&D. So as you can see, if I move the toggle, you get some feedback at the bottom of the screen there. That's just giving you, making it easy for you to help your client understand what's required from them. And as with other parts of the system, if for whatever reason we cannot identify any one of these areas that our client is active in, you're going to meet an endpoint and screen this client out of the process early on to, again, keep yourself and your client efficient. Once we've identified that there is some R&D and what type of R&D the company is active in, we obviously want to make sure that we understand who the competent professionals are. So of course we have questions around that. Once we know who the competent professionals are, we then need to be talking to them about what the challenges are that they've been experiencing over this financial period. And as you can see, I've got a series of categories here in front of me, which I can work through with my clients to understand what are the key things that they're having challenges with. And of course, you can straddle these categories as you go through the process. Let me just pick on something else further down. So outputs, it's really important for you to emphasize to your client the need for good record keeping and to ensure that they have evidence to support the work that they're claiming for within this period, and to archive off evidence for previous periods that they've claimed for, because as we all know, HMRC can go back several years should they choose to, if an inquiry is opened up. So this is just, again, a bit of housekeeping between you and your client and a reminder to make sure that there is evidence available. And although we're not asking you to produce any of this information up front, there is a small paragraph in the report, depending on what you tick off here, just stating, should there be any questions or queries, this is the evidence that we have available to support this client's claim. We of course ask about grants as well. There aren't any grants in this example, but as you can imagine, you're taking through a process to demonstrate to HMRC that due diligence has been done in terms of whether grants have or haven't been received, and if they have, the decision engine in the background is going to ensure that spend is routed appropriately based on the data and information that you're applying to the app. The final bit of the project section is to comply with HMRC's additional information form. As anyone who's already completed an AIF or is aware of the AIF will know, HMRC mandated on the 8th of August last year that we now need to describe a certain number of projects per claim, and the number of projects that needs to be described depends on how many projects are being included in the claim and what proportion of the overall spend they represent, which is all laid out in this explainer here on this page. So in this example, example, I've got 5 projects that I'm claiming for. Of course, we won't know what proportion of spend each project represents until we work out and allocate the cost. So that's the next step that we're going to go through in the process. And before we do that, we just need to provide the app with the project titles for the various projects that we're claiming for in this example, so that we've got an identifier to allocate costs to as we go through this next section. So these are my 5 projects. So now it's into the cost section.
So, Suze, just before you get into the costs, we've had a question through. It's just worth answering just now as you move away from that project title section. So it's from an anonymous attendee, but it's, I assume the project section is something that you can encourage the client to look through. So in a few minutes, when Suze has got through the cost section, we'll be having a look at the technical detail section, which is actually where what you're asking us about there really comes into play. So it was just, sorry to take you off your stride, Suze, but it was just to let that person know that we are going to cover that in a second.
No problem. Good question. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick look at some of the sections of the cost section again, just to give you a feel for how you work through the process. So the first cost category that we look at is staff costs. As you can see, we've got a cost capture table in front of us here that we can manually upload our data to, but we also have a CSV upload function here as well. So if you've already got this data laid out on a spreadsheet, using the CSV upload, the app will ask you to map which fields you want to pull down from your spreadsheet, because you may have a lot of other information relating to the claim on the same spreadsheet, and that will pre-populate this table for you. The next question in a similar vein is to do with the time each individual member has spent on each project. So again, similar format, you can either manually upload this data, or you can use the CSV upload again to map down which information you want to pull through to make that pre-population of the table very quick and easy. I do like to jump on the software cost section again, just because this claim is post-April 2023. If anybody was in the session with Jen earlier on in the week, the first session, she was talking about some of the changes that happened in the last couple of years, one of them being some additional cost categories that were introduced from the 1st of April 2023, which included cloud computing, data licenses, and also pure maths. I think the point that really just I want to emphasize here is that depending on which financial period you're in within the app, the question set flexes. So if I was in a period that's pre-April 2023, I wouldn't see these 2 fields because they're not eligible cost categories. So on that basis, the app is always going to keep you right in terms of the legislation and what isn't and isn't eligible, depending on what financial period you're in, which obviously gives you comfort. It means you don't need to keep worrying about what you are or are not including. I'll just nip through some of the other parts of the cost section just to give you a feel for how some of the questions look, but as you can imagine, it's all very straightforward. And then the last bit of the process, which just leads back to the question that Mike had just there, is the technical detail section. So now we've allocated all of the costs, the app is presenting us with a table to enable us to easily assess how expenditure has been distributed across all of the projects. So we can now take a view and decide which ones we want to describe in more detail. Not only that, our risk checkers in the background are making sure that we're selecting the minimum number of projects that the AIF will be expecting. So in my example of 5 claims, I need to describe a minimum of 3 projects, and those 3 projects must represent at least 50% of the overall qualifying spend. So as you can see in my distribution here, one of my projects is more than 50% of the overall qualifying spend. But if I try to select less than the minimum of 3, which I know the AIF is going to be expecting, you can see that the app is stopping me in my tracks. It's not letting me move forward because it needs me to make sure that I have enough data being collected for the AIF, which means that downstream, I don't need to worry about having to go back to my client to get more information from them to make sure that we're complying with the AIF. I just want to say as well that this is a 100% SME claim. If there was an RDEX split within this claim, you would have another column that looks like this with RDEX spend, and you would see the distributions across both schemes. So the final bit of the process is now the project write-ups. So this is a template designed to make it really easy for you and your client to articulate the specific project details that HMRC is going to need to assess the claims. So you can see I've got my 3 projects in tabs here. The template consists of the name of the competent professional, so that's the technical lead here. You've got the field of science and technology, which is a drop-down pulled through from a question that we will have answered earlier on in the process. Your start and end month, so what period of time within this financial year did the technical problem solving actually take place? And then you've got your 4 key areas: your baseline, your advances being sought, your uncertainties, and then your resolutions. And again, the way that these templates have been structured maps the AIF to make sure that we can copy across this information really easily from your AIF output we're going to show you in just a moment. You may have seen up here that I can insert images within each field, and we can also insert an overall image at the bottom of the screen here and add a description if we want to. One final fail-safe we have is when you first enter into the templates here, all of your tabs at the top there will be amber rather than green and will look like this. The app will not allow me to move on. You can see everything's been grayed out at the bottom here until all of the data fields have been completed. So if I've got any information missing, again, the app is going to stop me in my tracks to make sure that I go back and I'm happy that everything has been filled in as it should be. Once we've finalised our technical descriptions here, the final bit of the process is to go into review. Just one thing to mention about collaborators. Collaborators do have a restricted view of the question set overall, so they don't see those qualification checks and everything else at the start, and everything else that I'm about to show you now is not visible to a collaborator. If you're logged in collaboration mode and you're at this point in the process, rather than that review button that you see in blue at the bottom, you'll see a submit button, and when a collaborator has finished inputting all of their data, they should then be clicking submit, which will then send you an email to let you know that they've completed their input, and then that gives you the opportunity to take whatever the next steps are if it's a review meeting or something else. For you, going into the review stage of the process is just here. And you'll notice that once you're in review, you do have a message at the top of the screen to let you know that collaborators can no longer access a claim once a claim is in review, for very good reason. The absolute last thing that you would want is you're ready to review and finalise the documentation, and your collaborators just decided to nip in the background and make some tweaks and changes to some of the data. So we lock collaborators out once you're in review stage. Of course, if you do need your collaborators to go back in, all you need to do is push the claim back into in progress, and you do that just by clicking on the edit claim button here. There's quite a lot going on this screen, so I will take it in sections. On your left-hand side, you have your claim summary review page, which is essentially an output of all of the numerical data that's been collected over the claim, just giving you a chance to stop and take a breath and make sure that everything makes sense before you continue on with your finalisation and download. You can see you've got edit pens running down the center of the screen to enable you to easily go back to any of the questions that may need updating, maybe you've got placeholder figures in there and such like. On your right-hand side, you have our in-app claim risk assessments. This is an automated risk review, and it's not a measure of eligibility. It's really important to say that it's not a measure of eligibility. It's an automated review of your client's claim to help you understand if there are any potential weaknesses within the claim, which will then enable you to take steps to mitigate against them before you submit the claim. The automated assessment looks at a variety of factors, and your claim risk assessment score will either be a low, medium or high score. I've purposely made this high to expand out the various reasons, just so that I can explain in a bit more detail. The risk assessment looks at things like company SIC code, the size of the claim versus the turnover, if grants are present, if there are any group structures and shareholdings. Those last 2 items can cause additional complexity within the claim and maybe things that may pique HMRC's interest. So we just want to help make you aware and ensure that you've done all of your background research, you've dotted all your I's and crossed your T's, and you're very happy that should there be any questions or queries raised, you know that they will stand up to any inquiries that HMRC may have. Below that, you're going to see a box with an approximate qualifying spend in them. Again, this is just an SME claim. If there was an RDEC split, you would see the RDEC split here. You'll notice this figure is very round. It's purposely rounded down ever so slightly. You see the final figures when you download the report, but this enables you to make some decisions, maybe help you understand what the overall benefit might look like. If you have your client's profit and loss position, you can work through the calculations. Maybe you're still trying to decide how you want to fee for this type of work based on the size of the claim. And again, just having an estimated idea at this point will allow you to do that. Below that, you're always going to see what the price of the report is going to be before you download. Mike's going to talk about pricing in just a moment. And then we've got our finalize claim button. So once we're happy with everything, we click finalize claim. This is the wow moment. This is the bit where you do not need to worry about having to write a report. The app is going to do all of the legwork for you to produce the report that you'll attach to the CT600. And without any additional work from your parts, we're also going to produce an additional information form output too, which is going to help you fill that portal out before you submit the claim. Before we download, you do have the opportunity, if you want to engage with one of our additional services, our WhisperClaims review service just here. The review service is an optional layer of reassurance should you feel you need it. So unlike the automated review on the previous page, this is a deep dive desk-based review performed by one of our in-house R&D tax experts. We will look at all of the publicly available information about the company that's claiming. We will look at the project descriptions that have been written and assess those for eligibility. We will also analyse the costs and essentially provide you with a PDF report giving you, if appropriate, any hints, tips and advice as to how you might want to improve or tweak the report before you submit. We'll also open up the claim for you in the background to enable you to go in and make any changes based on the advice that we've offered if you want to take that. Some of our users choose to have all of their claims reviewed, whilst others will request a review maybe just for their first few claims while they're building confidence, and others will use the reviews for maybe slightly trickier claims if they're maybe particularly high value or high risk and they just want another pair of eyes on the report before it goes to HMRC. So now we're ready to download. We can now access the reports that have been prepared. And as I said already, without any extra work on your part, you're also going to be offered an output that is all of the answers that you need to complete the additional information form. You can see all of your documents laid out here. I'm just going to download the PDF. We also give you a Word version of the report, which is just here, which is just an unbranded, unstyled version, just in case you've maybe got your own branded templates that you want to copy and paste the content of the WhisperClaims report into. And I'll just download the AIF output as well, just so that I can quickly show you that in just a moment as well. Okay, so this is the report. So if I just gently start scrolling through the report here, this is what the output looks like. So you've got your cover page with all of your company information, financial period, your named contacts, and the name of the person and the firm that has prepared the report, table of contents. And as I gently start scrolling through the reports, hopefully what you're going to start to notice is that we've got these very clearly laid out paragraphs with headers that relate to various parts of the app that we've gone through. The app has now turned that data that we've been filling in, sliders, drop downs, multiple choice questions, has turned that into narrative to top and tail the project descriptions and the costs that we're going to see in just a moment. I'll just keep gently scrolling through just so that you can see how all of this looks. We're just about to get to the project descriptions now, so you'll remember the templates at the end of the process that we offer you. This is what now pulls through into the report. So this is the first project that I was describing here. I've got 3 of these, so once I've gone through the first one, I will quickly scroll through the next 2 to get us to the cost section. So that is, we've got B&E there. Okay, so next is the treatment of costs. So we then go through each cost category with the summary and data relating to our client's claim. And then, of course, we're going to get into our qualifying expenditure tables. So you can see the cost capture tables here. So per cost category, per project, all the information is laid out. This is the figure that goes on the CT600s. We've then got some notes and assumptions on the next page, just letting HMRC know how those costs above have been treated. And we then have some additional appendices a bit further down, just giving HMRC an expanded view of some of the relevant costs in the hope that there's no need for them to ask any additional questions. So that's the report output. Very quick look at that. I just need to reshare my screen so that I can show you the additional information form output, which is just here. So let me just expand that out a little bit. Okay, so this is your AIF outputs. This collation of raw data maps the structure of HMRC's additional information form portal. And what this means for you is that any additional administrative burden of having to fill out the AIF before you submit the claim is completely removed. You can simply work through the portal with your text file open and copy and paste your answers directly into it, guaranteeing an efficient and error-free submission. So you can see how this file is laid out in all of the relevant sections of the AIF, and all of your client's data is here for you to copy and paste directly into the portal. HMRC's portal will remind you at the end that you can't view your answers once you've submitted the form, but that's not a problem if you're using WhisperClaims, because your file is saved to the dashboard alongside the report that you will submit with the CT600. So that's the end of the demo. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a moment, and let Mike come back in.
Right. Thanks, Suze.
There you go, Mike, over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Just bear with me a second now to get my screen back. There we go. Great stuff. Okay, so Suze mentioned I'm going to talk about pricing. Just before I do that, I just wanted to work through some of the resources we've been sharing earlier on in the week, and just remind you to take a look at these, because they're all really useful when it comes to actually delivering your service, and that there's lots of data and information in these documents that you'll find useful. So we'll reshare the links for these as I tell you what they are. So this first one is our guide to the AIF. In actual fact, we've launched a revision to this document just yesterday. So even if you've downloaded this before, might be worth you doing it again today just to get the brand new updated version. So that's the AIF. We've then got one that actually plays to what we mentioned earlier on about the GFC3, the new guidelines for compliance. So a real area of focus within GFC3 is identifying eligibility. So this ebook, as I say, plays to that. Some real helpful hints and tips in there about identifying eligibility. So again, do take a look at that one. And similarly, again, GFC3 related, some hints and tips on writing a technical narrative. So we had that question there about collaboration and clients being involved in the project descriptions. This gives you hints and tips on how to pull the technical narrative together. So by extension, hints and tips on how to educate your clients on what they need to fill into those areas. So again, another important one to have a look at. And then finally, this one relates to this morning's session, which was on marketing with Joe. We've got a brand new ebook on marketing and R&D tax service, not yet released. It should be ready next week and ready to go out. So what we're going to do next week is send out links to the recordings from all the sessions from this week, and separately we'll send out links to all of the ebooks, including this new one as well. So keep an eye out for that if marketing's of interest to you. So thanks for listening to that little recap. I'll now jump to pricing. Excuse me. So we've got essentially two pricing models. We've got our core pricing model, which is essentially the way that most of our clients work with us. Under that model, we charge £100 a month as a subscription fee. That gives you access to everything we've described, the advice line. You get the benefit of the automated risk review, the software, of course. We haven't mentioned our WhatsApp community group. You get access to that too, which is a great place to bounce ideas around with and bounce insights with your peers. And then we charge a download fee on each report, which is capped at £625. It's essentially 2% of the eligible spend up to that cap. So no matter how big your claim, you'll never pay more than £625. So to give you a flavour, the biggest claims go through the platform was about 9 million of eligible spend. That was still just a £625 download. And at the other end of the scale, if you've got a very small claim, let's say 10K's worth of eligible spend, that would work out at a £200 download, 2% of 10K, to give you a flavour. The alternative is our enterprise pricing model. which is where we'll take a forecast of your usage for the system across the year, and we'll essentially turn that into a fixed monthly fee, and we'll apply a hefty discount to that. Now, we've started to stop referring to that as enterprise pricing because the entry point is actually really low. Even if you're only going to do 5 claims plus a year, we can look at turning that into a fixed monthly fee. So the kind of entry level price that I've just put up there is just $229 a month for up to 5 claims a year. So even a substantial discount on a relatively small number of claims. And it gives you that surety of knowing just how much you're going to spend delivering this service line during the year. So do get in touch with us if you think you might be generating any kind of volume and want to benefit from that enterprise pricing regime. So how do you get access to all of this? We've got a trial offer where essentially we give you 30 days subscription free, nothing to pay, and then your first download within that 30-day period is also free, along with the additional claim review that we mentioned earlier on. So during the trial, you've got access to around about £1,000 worth of activity there. The reason we do that, it is a generous offer, but the reason we do that is we want you to be off and running with a live claim, get a real flavour for how to utilise both the app and our support. Gives us 2 benefits. One is we hope that convinces you to stay with us. It means that if you're charging a fee to the client, you're likely to have made enough margin on that first claim to justify rolling into that first year's subscription. And of course, throughout the trial, you've got open access to the advice line as well. So we'll go on to Q&A, but just before we get into that, I'm just going to pop up a little poll. So just bear with me while I get this together. Here we go. So this is just to give you the option if any of you are interested in a trial, do just indicate in the box there either a more detailed one-to-one demo with Suze or straight to trial. Let us know. Otherwise, if you'd just like a chat about your strategy around R&D, where are you up to? If you need any kind of help, tips, any insight from the market, more than happy to have a chat with you about that. So indicate that in the appropriate place in the poll there. And I'm just going to leave that up while we go to Q&A. Suze, if we've had any questions coming in.
Yes, I have had some questions. Let me just bring those up. This is a nice juicy one for you to get into first, Mike.
Oh,
yes.
thanks.
The question is,
just so I was about to cough anyway and lose my voice there.
I've noticed WhisperClaims have a few competitors. What's the difference between you and the competition?
Whoa. Yeah, thanks. So well, first observation is right. When we first launched this, we were particularly in the advisor market, we were the first to market with software to do this. So I suppose that's perhaps the first thing to say is that we've now got the best part of 6 years of experience of this. We've spoken to a lot of firms. We've got a lot of insight into the market. So, we're not kind of brand new to the market and without that knowledge and expertise. But I think actually the key thing, and it's something we've emphasized a few times as we've gone through this session, is the support that we offer. So, we're not just giving you a tool here and kind of leaving you to your own devices. What we've wanted to do is make sure that we're putting the tool into the right people's hands, and we believe that to be primarily accountants, and B, to provide that extra shoulder to lean on when it comes to support. So primarily it's that advice line, and I don't think any of our competitors are offering anything like that as we stand. The other thing to perhaps emphasize is throughout this period of change with the legislation, you can imagine that there's been huge pressure on us to make sure that we keep the app up to speed and keep ahead of the legislation and the effective dates for the changes. And we've been the only software provider who's managed to do that and meet all of the deadlines on time and in full, and keep our customers on the right side of the legislation. So I think it's a couple of things. It's the support and market expertise that we have, and it's also that kind of proven ability to keep ahead of the legislation and keep our customers straight.
Absolutely. We had a very similar question to this earlier on, but in the week, but it might be pertinent to anyone who wasn't in that session. So do you have any particular views on what a change in government may mean to the R&D tax scheme?
Yeah, so again, two things to say. So in the last budget, when the final changes were announced that were now sort of starting to feel, the current government also announced that they had concluded their review into the scheme as it currently stands. Now, there are other consultations going on around this. So things like there's one just completed that's about the potential for a regulatory body for tax, and that, of course, is involved also looking at R&D. But what the government have said is that they are not looking at changing the structure of the scheme. Now, of course, with the change of government, you need to potentially look to the Labour Party and what their policy is on that. And literally in the last few days, they've come out and said that they don't intend to change the scheme either over the course of the next Parliament. So, and some people might question that and say, oh, it'd be great if we went back to this or we changed that in the new scheme and so on. But from my point of view, I think I welcome that stance, because even if what we've got now isn't what the market entirely wants and needs, I think what we all definitely need is a period of stability and being able to embed processes, make sure that both us as service providers and our clients understand the scheme and the market. So I think a period of stability would be really welcome. And for now, that's what Labour have declared.
Again, this is a similar question to what we had earlier on in the week, but it's a good one to ask. Are WhisperClaims users being open about the fact that they are using software to prepare claims on behalf of their clients?
Big change in that regard. So I would say when we launched the business, so nearly 6 years ago, our early adopters were all fearful of letting their clients know they were using software or using third-party help of any sort. That is hugely different now. And maybe just going back to what I said before about the collaboration feature and how important that's become, actually showing clients that you are working with a highly structured process that reflects all of HMRC's requirements has become a really important aspect of delivering a service. So I would say, we might have a few outliers, but certainly all of the customers that I've spoken to recently have all said that they're using the collaboration feature. They've been open with their customers, and if they're not using the collaboration feature, they're actually sitting with the client, either around a desk or on a Zoom call, and working through the software with them. So again, demonstrating how robust the process is. So that's been a real contrast, I would say, over the last few years.
Definitely, I definitely remember when we first kicked off that. I think there was probably a bit of concern from our accountant customers that they didn't want their clients to know that they were using software, but actually, as time has moved on and tech has become more integral to practices, it's definitely something that's seen more of a positive than a negative to us.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, that's it for questions I have. If anybody does have any final questions, we do have a couple of minutes left, so please do type them in the Q&A box before we go. But I guess if there's not, then that's all that's left to say is thank you ever so much to everyone who's joined us today. And if you've joined us on any of the other sessions this week, thank you so much for your time as well. We hope you've enjoyed it and you found it valuable. Mike, anything left from you?
No, just to reiterate, obviously it's been a busy week for us, and I'm guessing it's been a busy week for many of you on the call as well, especially if you've been and joined all of these sessions or perhaps several of the sessions. So thanks very much for doing that and taking time out of your day to listen to us and listen to all of our speakers. And we look forward to being in touch in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you again so much, everyone. And we hope to speak to you all at some point in the near future. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.